Alright, guys, before we get started, I'd like to give a huge shout out to my patron Majora. Man, without you, I wouldn't be doing this right now. Your support means the world to me. It's what keeps me going. So yeah, thanks so much. In my experience, most people when asked, "Why are you a furry?" will bring up Sonic. And while that's true for me as well, that's not the whole truth, nor was Sonic the beginning. I'll get to that though. Speaking of the beginning, you could say I was almost destined to become a furry before I was even born. See, I was born in '98, but my mom was born in the late '70s, thus making her an '80s kid, which meant she was just old enough to be infected with the shell mania of the mid '80s to the early '90s. Before I could even understand anything, before I could even remember, I was a fan of the TMNT. I loved to watch the '80s cartoon with my mom, and when the 2003 cartoon came out in, well, '03, I was old enough to actually care about the media I consumed. And I was hooked. And by hooked, I mean TMNT was practically my entire personality back then. Hell, you could say it was my special interest. And I'm autistic, so you know that actually means something. Through TMNT, I got into comic books, video games, and other entertainment mediums. However, while TMNT was the seed, the first contact of furrydom for me, it wasn't the nail in the coffin. See, for some reason, the 2 decades leading up to and even including the early 2000s, you almost couldn't escape furries, as furry media was actually relatively mainstream. You had, of course, the shell mania, aka turtle fever, of the '80s and '90s, but even before that, you had Sonic. And in the late '90s, specifically in '96, Crash Bandicoot came out. Those were just the most popular examples. There was also Sly Cooper, Spyro, Jak and Daxter, etc. I say all this to say that in my childhood, I was positively surrounded by furry media. Positively and absolutely. It was fucking everywhere. So that covered the introduction, the seed of furrydom. But after all, as furries are a minority of a minority of a minority in terms of subcultures and identities. Um, when and why did I specifically become a furry? Well, the first one is kind of a cop out, but is nevertheless true. I kind of just always was one. I did actually cover this back in the first part, but I think I should elaborate more here. I didn't know there was a word, let alone a whole community of us until I got access to the internet and social media. Um, so, like I said, I kind of always was one. I always really identified with them. Um, that's gonna be. I'm gonna elaborate more on that here in the next section. If you know me outside of YouTube, you know I'm both neurodivergent and queer. Specifically, I'm ADHD. That's autistic and ADHD. And I'm pansexual and trans. For most of my life, I saw myself in furries, as I've never felt quite human. I've never felt normal. I was always an outcast and didn't really have any community, and being impoverished all my life didn't help. I was a broke kid, and being broke sucks. Um, yeah, as such, I turned to deviant lifestyles such as getting engaged in criminal activities even as a young child. Whether I was being harassed and abused for not being the right kind of boy or I was hiding my private and criminal affairs from society, I was never myself, I was never safe. But when I learned that I could be, quite literally, whatever I wanted to be in terms of a persona, I didn't hesitate. I could be whatever species I wanted. I could have superpowers, and my persona could be a girl. Shit. The entire concept of a persona empowered me to live out my wildest dreams, and I couldn't be happier. When you take into consideration my history and love of animals, honestly, it was always a question of when, not if, I was going to end up a furry. So, am I still a furry? Well, assuming you only know me from my YouTube, I could see how you would think this is a silly question. As obviously my avatar, my PNG, which is a furry, is, you're staring right at her. Um, but for those of you who know me outside of YouTube, you might be in the dark. The short answer is a yes, and the long answer is yes, but it's complicated. See, unlike a lot of furries, I don't make my persona my entire personality. That isn't a dig, by the way. I'm actually envious of the dedication so many people have to singular hobbies and fandoms. My indecisive ass could never. That said, what do I even mean by that? Like, what does that mean? That's just a bunch of words, a bunch of nonsense. Well, if you're on my other social media or even go back and look at some of my older videos, I think it's my Ruby vid, you'll see that not only have I never worn or even purchased a fursuit, not all of my avatars are furries, nor do I plan on buying a fursuit. I have little to no issue posting my RL face, even if I'm incredibly dysphoric about it on the internet. The reason for this disconnect of being multifaceted, or it is multifaceted, so I will take it one point at a time. Firstly, on my avatars. I just like stuff. One of the easiest and most obvious ways to display that affection for your interests online is to make that interest literally your face. In other words, your avatar, profile picture, and even layout. Basically, I want people to know what I like. I want to be able to rep my interests. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to make it be the literal first thing people see and people learn about you when they click on your profile. That's how it is for me. That's really all there is to it. Secondly, I don't plan on buying a fursuit for a couple of reasons, but I'll only list the major two. I'm extremely claustrophobic. It's bad. And as a result, I don't like to be hot. I don't like heat. It actually kind of conflicts with my fashion sense. I'm not gonna lie. I like hoodies. I like jeans. I don't like being hot. It's rough out here, especially with this global warming shit going on. And finally, I'm comfortable posting myself because the selfie every once in a while isn't going to kill me. I do struggle with anxiety, but that's not one of those things I'm anxious about. I used to be, but not anymore. I guess I've just stopped caring about that kind of shit. Not only that, but I just don't have the budget for multiple different art pieces of my persona, nor do I have the time or skills to be able to draw them myself. And I'm no fucking art thief. Also, I think the same PNG over and over again in video after video is boring. I already have a hard enough time trying to manage and maintain views and engagement. Don't misunderstand me. I am not saying the fur community is some safe, progressive haven with no issues. Well, with rampant racism, queerphobia, and animal, in one sense, the furry community is one of the least safe subcultures out there, and that's saying a lot. So, on one hand, I can't necessarily blame non-furries for being apprehensive about the community, but on the other, the community and media has literally helped save my life. I know that's a cliche, everyone and their mom says it about something. Everyone has that one thing. But for me, it's true. I wouldn't be here today without them. I would either be dead, in jail, whatever. I owe my life to, in part, to the furry community. Yeah, if you look hard enough in the right places, you will find a community full of some of the most loving and accepting people on the planet. I guarantee it. That's it. So tell me, did I confirm all your fur stereotypes, or did I maybe, just maybe, make you see us in a new light? Let me know down in the comments. And if you want more videos like this one, please hit the like and subscribe. It costs nothing, but it helps me out. I've been Lulu, you've been whoever the hell you are, and I can't wait to see you all again in the next video. Bye bye.